All righty. Good morning, everybody. First off, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank everybody for tuning in on Zoom. I just really am excited about this. This will be my first and the first ag entrepreneurship series in Wharton County. Over the next few weeks, we'll touch on tons of things. We'll stay pretty general, but we'll talk about pretty much how to start an ag business and how to sustain an ag business. As you can see today, we'll start by having an intro from Ashley Pellerin, one of our extension specialists at Prairie A&M. And next we'll have the Landowners Association of Texas. This is a community-based organization that we're partnering with on this series out of Liberty County. And they'll talk about 101 entrepreneurship activities and industries. What that'll entail is it'll be pretty much just teaching what avenues and what routes you can take with your land or with any ideas that you have that are ag-based. And lastly, we'll have Mr. John Abraham from Circle A Farm and Ranch. He'll come. He's a local guy, does hay, does pecans, and also is in the cattle industry. Been a mentor of mine, has really shown me around the county since I've been here. So also really excited about that. And at the end, there'll be a survey. We'll hand out a survey to everyone here to do in person, and also there'll be a survey online. So if you'll bear with us to complete that, we really appreciate that. To tell you a little bit about me, like I said, I'm Braxton Mitchell. I'm a new agent. I've been here for about 4 months. Born and raised in Houston, Texas. Went and got my college degree at Charleston State University. Just moved back, so I'm super excited. And if you will give us a second right before we start, we're gonna transition to our first speaker.
All right, now can everybody hear me? All right, let it clear. All right, so thank you, Braxton, for hosting this program. I'll take off my mask from up here. As he mentioned, my name is Ashley Pellerin. I am the Extension Program Specialist for livestock programming, but today, as we know, livestock are an agricultural enterprise, much like crop farming, agritourism, and other ventures that you can go into. So I thank him for allowing me to intro ag entrepreneurship here today. So what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a person who organizes and operates a business or businesses, taking on greater than normal risk for that enterprise or for that business. So a lot of times we know that there is risk associated with starting any type of business, but an entrepreneur is somebody who really is delving into it for the benefit of profit or financial gain. So what exactly is an agricultural entrepreneur? Anybody have any wild guesses? Anybody? A wild guess about what an agricultural entrepreneur is? Exactly. So those who want their business to be ag-centered or ag-focused. I got my little clicker, so thank you, Greg. All right. So it refers to building your own company in a way that's associated with an agricultural supply catch. Again, we talked about agritourism, farming, and ranching, and other types of businesses that some people deem unconventional, because when we think about agriculture, what do we think about? We think of crops and livestock. We don't necessarily tend to think outside the box or think, what are some other potential options that we could get into, such as not just selling to consumers, but you could sell to agricultural businesses. So those agricultural businesses who do seed sales, fertilizer sales, those are also considered agricultural enterprises. So some characteristics of a successful entrepreneur are they have initiative, drive, and the ability to take advantage of opportunities. A lot of times, an entrepreneur is not going to be the person who is standing back and just waiting on things to come to them. They are real go-getters. They see a need, they identify the need, and they say, I can fill in that gap. So it's important that you have drive and initiative. They always look for opportunities to improve and expand. I always say start small, but think bigger picture. You got to begin with the end in mind. They thrive on change and they cope well with risk and uncertainty. Because what was that major thing that we mentioned as an entrepreneur? You have to take on an unaverage amount of risk in order to see a better return. So you have to see that this is worth the risk. All right, they also know how to identify and evaluate risk, and they're willing to take calculated risk. They're a creative problem solver. A lot of times they say, don't reinvent the wheel, but sometimes if you reinvent the wheel enough, nobody's gonna get it from you. Then it becomes, I'm gonna get it from the person who provided that wheel the cheapest, instead of this is something you need. So a lot of times you have to be creative and say, why is my business necessary? Why should this person come and get this product or this animal or this experience from me? They establish strong partnerships and relationships. Again, a lot of times in any kind of business venture, you cannot do it alone. Whether you have financial partners, whether you have business partners or investors, or even people to just trial out what you're trying to put forward. You can't do it alone. So you have to be that person that is willing to go out and express those needs and be willing to take criticism and say, I didn't really like that, what you did with that. You're gonna have to go back. I didn't like that jam, but this is the best jam. This is my grandmother's jam. Yeah, I don't like that jam. All right, so you have to take that criticism and you have to not let it be a personal hit. And they're always an innovator. So the point of your business is to be profitable. If you are not making money, it is what? It's a hobby. If you don't make money, it's a hobby. And you all are not here because you are interested in a hobby. You are interested in learning how to be profitable in using your land or using some kind of agricultural venture. So, getting started. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail because throughout the course of the series, we are going to have people who are experts in agricultural marketing, business plan development, and through this series, they're going to go through those things with you. So I'm going to basically skim the surface of how to get started. And as I mentioned before, you have to start with the end in mind. So start with the end in mind. What is your long-term goal? What is your long-term option for being profitable? You start with the end in mind and know that you're going to have to shift at some point. Nothing, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. But as we know in business and in agriculture, there's no such thing as a straight line anywhere. Because you can't control the weather and you can't control, there's several other things you can't control. And a lot of times it's prices. Because big guys control the prices, right? Right. So we have to start with the end in mind, but also be flexible. Oh, there's my animation. I tried to do a little something for you guys. All right, so elements involved in starting a business. All right, identify the type of agricultural enterprise or business that you want to venture into. You have to know where you're going in order to get started on that journey. So the next, identify required resources for that business. So, okay, I know I want to raise cattle. Do I have land? Do I have capital to buy cattle? Do I have capital to buy quality cattle? You know, do I have the resources that are necessary for me to be profitable and for me to even get started on the right foot for that enterprise? Analyze the cost required for resources. Yes, I have the land. Yes, I have the cows. Can I feed those animals? Not just can I feed them now, can I feed them 5 years from now? Can I feed them 3 years from now? If a drought comes, what can I do? What are my options during the winter? Or what are my options during the summer? So you want to analyze the cost of required resources, and I would say blow them up, because you never know what can happen. You always give yourself a cushion. Next is identify risk and understand market competition. You are going into this feeling like you have the best product, you have the best services, your corn maze is the best. They're going to get lost for days. They're going to think the best thing. Well, okay, what about your competitors? Are they offering more than a corn maze? Are they offering a corn maze and a petting zoo? Are they offering horse rides? What are they offering? And just realize how, and don't try to, you should understand your competition, but move at your own pace. Because trying to move at their pace will cost you money. And we don't want to waste money. The point is to be profitable. And as I mentioned before, get help and find a mentor. You can't do this on your own. And a lot of times you can avoid making a lot of mistakes by talking to people who have already made those mistakes. That won't help you miss all of the mistakes, because you're gonna make your own. This is agriculture, okay? We gonna make them. That's the risk we take being in the field that we love, regardless of what enterprise or what entity you're putting on. Get a mentor. Somebody's done what you've done. Now how do you turn it up a notch? You know, that's your uniqueness. What is your niche? How do you turn it up a notch? But make sure you got your foundation set. All right, so this will help you when developing a business plan. Notice I said when you start to develop your business plan, at this point, you don't hit the ground running with a business plan. You make sure you get all the pieces together, and then you can put them in a business plan. Have I thought about everything? Have I thought about the risk? Have I thought about my intended clients? Because all of that goes into a business plan. All of the things that we talked about here go into a business plan, but you need to know before you start putting in that hard work, because a business plan is hard work. Before you put in that hard work, are you willing to take that risk? Have you done your homework? Oh, I got an animation here too. Look at that. All right. All right, so 4 questions to ask. I pulled this from another website, but I thought they were very poignant questions, and it's something that we should all consider. So the first one, who specifically is the customer that I want to serve? Specifically. What very specific problem am I solving for that very specific customer that I identified in the beginning? Next, how is my solution, my product, my event, how is that better than my competitors? Or how is that better than something that's already available to that very specific customer? And is my solution, my product, my event, something that they are willing and able to pay for? Because there's a lot of people now saying, oh, I'll support your business. Okay, well, the first of the month came and they have rent, they have everything else. Is it a necessity? Or is it something that they feel valuable enough that they will save to participate in your ag business? Whether it's a grocery box, whether it's like I said, agritourism type of venture, is it something that they are willing and able to pay for? All right, so we're going to delve a little deeper into these 4 questions. So the first one is, who specifically is the customer that I want to serve? So you have to be specific. I got people when I was a county agent in Smith County, they would come up to my office and they say, I want to grow vegetables for everybody. Everybody? Yes, everybody. How many acres do you have? 3. Well, that's not everybody. You're going to grow something for somebody. Okay? You can do a lot on 3 acres. But in order to maximize your profit in your business, you have to figure out what will get me the most money off of my 3 acres. Is it going to be cows? Probably not. Could you set up a very strategic vegetable program? You could. Could it become a U-Pitch program where you can even save on labor costs? Sure can. Is everybody going to want to come out and pick peas in your garden? Not all the time. Not if you picked peas before. I don't know about y'all. But that ain't something that I always want to do. But if you got your cousins from Houston, hey, cousins from Houston, don't you want to pick peas? Of course you do. So making sure that you have a specific target and that you are aiming for that specific client. So something like East Texas food deserts. So if you notice that there's a food desert and you have enough space, you say, I would like to do this. I would like to partner with the food bank to do this. I would like to do that. Or urban families searching for local produce or rural activity. Again, a corn maze, if you have a feed a calf day, come and they just get to pet the cows and they get to have a whole petting zoo at your farm. You got free labor for a day or 2. Okay? So be specific in who your customer is because that will help you on the back end.
I don't think they can see on this screen.
One second. We are, I think, having some technical issues. If you're on Zoom, could you type in the chat if you can see this PowerPoint slide sheet we're going through right now?
They said they could see it. Yeah. Mhm. It's okay. Welcome to hybrid. Welcome to hybrid programming, folks. So we just have a couple people with some technical issues, but some of the other people in the chat are helping that person out. So thank you all for troubleshooting that for us. And we'll just keep this rolling. All right, next is your venture for consumers, entertainment, ag business. Like, what is your niche? What is your aha? They want to come to me for this. And who is my marketing supposed to target? All of those are basically saying the same things in different ways because I believe everybody doesn't hear everything the same way. So be specific. Who is my marketing supposed to target? If I see an advertisement for your product or your enterprise, is it going to attract me to come to you? Because that's what your marketing is supposed to do. Your marketing is supposed to drive consumers and customers to you. So question number 2, again, what very specific problem am I having for that very specific customer? So basically that is saying, what gap am I filling? What niche am I filling? Successful businesses do 2 things. One, they meet a need and it solves a problem. The customer has a problem. Do you have something that can solve that problem? The customer has a need. Do you meet that need? If it's not a need or solves a problem, a lot of times customers won't see it as something I have to have. They'll say it as, if I have extra money, I'll go and do that. You want to be able to give them an experience to say, if you have extra money, this is why you should come here. Or this is a need that I can provide to you. So fill gaps slowly, then expand. We said start with the end in mind, and I did talk about diversification. But if you get really good at one thing, then those customers will tell their friends about your one thing. I know a guy in East Texas known for the best watermelons I've ever tasted. He's known as the watermelon guy. Most people don't even know his name is Melvin Brother. But he's known as the watermelon guy because they know that he has consistent products and consistent watermelons. Guess what Melvin Brother grows? Watermelons. Because now he's created his market, he's targeted his people, and now he's expanded where now he can take it to farmers markets. He has some for his local people. Now he has some out in the farmers market, and he's able to expand that way. Now Melvin Rutherford also makes onions and some other things. He can get those peddled off too, but they're going to come see him for watermelons. So also stay current on emerging and potential needs. A lot of times go to those farmers market. If you're growing vegetables, everybody can grow onions at a certain time. Everybody can grow watermelons at a certain time. So that market is going to be saturated with that one thing. So unless you have an established customer base, or unless you have good reach, or something else to draw them in, you could get looked over by price. Somebody could say, oh, well, that watermelon looks just like that watermelon. And that one's, $1 cheaper. So I'm gonna go get that one because they don't see the value. So making sure you stay current on emerging potential. So what's coming up? Can you get ahead of the curve? Can you get some high tunnels and plant earlier or extend your growing season to provide services or options when those things aren't there? So also talk to clients and networks. I mentioned doing your homework, but that homework never stops. Your enterprise and your entity should continue to change over time. Yes, you're developing that one thing very consistently, but maybe you're changing the variety of your seeds. Maybe you're doing cattle, you're getting some hybrid vigor, you're going to try to test out different crosses. All right, so those are things that you want to consider. In your corn maze, is that too labor intensive? Maybe you want to try to do something else other than a corn maze. All right, so you want to also stay current and figure out when something works for you and when something doesn't work for you. So how is my solution better? So do I stand out? Am I unique? You have to know what makes your product better, because who's the best salesman for your product, or the saleswoman, salesperson for your product? You are the face of your business. You are the face of your organization. You are the face of your fruits and vegetables. You are the face of your cattle. You can put a bull up there, but they're going to ask you, well, you know, who are the sires of this bull? What's the EPDs? You got to know all of that. So you have to know your business, and you have to know the lingo that is used. So next, you have to make sure there's a factor that absolutely matters to the customer. If they're not looking for a breeding bull, EPDs will mean nothing to them. They want to know how much it's going to weigh, how much it's going to bring to the sale barn. For your vegetables, they're going to want to know, well, is it going to be sweet? I want my watermelon to be sweet all the time. I want my onions to be big. I want my turnip greens to be as big as my arms. Okay, well, can you realistically do that? Maybe, maybe not. So make sure that what matters to the customer, okay, I may not be able to get that big, but I guarantee you they're going to be fresh. I guarantee you they're going to be here at this date. I guarantee you in your box, you're going to have this at this time. I can make small guarantees. Okay, so make sure it's something that actually matters to your customer. Is your product or service just different for different sake, or is it actually better in a way that matters? Because some people say, oh, my water, my onions, my cows, everything's different. Well, how? Do they look the same to me? Most of your consumers don't care, like, how is it going to taste on my plate? How much is it going to cost me to process? When I get to the grocery store, is it going to taste like the grocery store one, or is this going to taste different if I let you process it and give it to me? So make sure you are able to sell your product and sell yourself, because that's how you can gain profitability and trustworthiness. A lot of people now, post-pandemic, I know we hate that word, okay, but after that, you know, a lot of people are now like, I want my food local. I want to find a person that's closer to me. Well, I live in Houston. Where's my local person? The backyard person? And okay, tomorrow they don't have anything for me. So where's my next local person? All right, and how can you maximize on the strengths of your business? Maybe it's your personality. Maybe you just got a fire personality and you're just like, come buy my stuff. I'm here, I'm there. Great, but if that's not you, figure out what makes you unique, because people buy from the person and then they think about the product. Okay, so if they buy from the person and then the product. If you don't look like you wash your kitchen, then they're not going to buy jams from you. They'll be like, there are bugs on the top of that can. I'm not buying that. But this one over here, they probably just put some Smuckers in another jar, tightened it up, put their label on it. Consumers don't know the difference. So sometimes you got to sell yourself, you got to sell your product and maximize on the strengths of your business. So is my solution something that they're willing and able to pay for? How many of y'all shop on Amazon? We could probably get that somewhere closer, but what's Amazon's draw? It's cheap and I don't have to leave my house. Prime, get it next day, same day sometimes, get my groceries delivered. Pandemic, that was the greatest thing. I'm getting my groceries delivered. I get those Walmart rollback prices. Well, what happens to I want to buy local? When money is in a pinch, you know, sometimes you have to make concessions. So what's going to keep you afloat when people have to make concessions? So, the tough reality is, in order for your business to be successful and profitable, you have to have a price point that people are willing to pay. What does that mean? Click the next one. So you have to start thinking about the amount that you need to charge over your overhead. And do customers understand and see the value in your product? Do they see the value in your product? In ag, a lot of people feel like, well, I can grow it in my backyard, so I don't want to have to pay for it. But you didn't grow it in your backyard. You came to me. But I have to be profitable. And that is the name of the game. If you can't afford to lower your prices, then don't. Find a customer who can meet that price. Large companies do it all the time. You may have to go farther out. But again, that's what starting small can do for you. You can start small and you can absorb some of that risk for having to go farther out or reach a different customer base. Maybe there's some people you didn't even think about. Okay, so you want to try to get in the mindset of what's my bottom line price? I don't want to break even. I want profit. So what's your bottom line price for that profit? So I read another article and they had the 5 C's to consider, and these were challenges. And I'm running a little time, but I'm gonna wrap up here soon. So the 5 C's are capital. Agricultural ventures require a lot of upfront capital. Can you take that risk? Can you absorb that risk? Or can you get a loan to assist with that? Next is commoditization. I had to look up that word and practice saying it several times. Commoditization. It's the loss of uniqueness. It's what I've talked about here several times. It's if I can get it from John cheaper for the same product, then why would I get it from you? It's the same product, just cheap. Consolidation. So larger companies absorb, they're able to take that risk because they spent the time and they gathered together. So large players dominate a lot in agribusiness. We hear, and that's not just in the food sector, that's also in agribusiness, ag entertainment as well. Customer adoption. I know many entrepreneurs are tired of, I want to do the latest and the greatest thing, and then it falls through. Well, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go try and do this latest and greatest thing. Well, your customers are now leaving to go try something, and you're like, but I've been consistent. I've been over here. But that's just kind of the world that we live in now. They want the latest and the greatest. They want the quickest. They want the fastest. And that's not always how agriculture works. So sometimes we just have to be aware that we will have some customer attrition or customer loss. And connectivity. I live in Houston, so sometimes people don't understand that rural broadband doesn't exist everywhere. We saw that during the pandemic, that people were having trouble getting internet. But how do we market a lot of our ventures? On Facebook, online, on Amazon? How do you reach those people who are in the more rural areas who could probably benefit from what you're selling or the entertainment that you're trying to offer? How do you reach them? Do you go to, Tractor Supply and post your listing? Do you know to go to Tractor Supply and post your listing? If they don't go to Tractor Supply, do you know what feed stores other clients or other purchasers can go to? Or not to go to, but that they go to, that they frequent. Well, this is my friend over here, they own this feed store. Can this person advertise for me? Word of mouth goes a long way. So in conclusion, do your homework, get a mentor, assess resources and risks, understand that it's okay to make mistakes because you will, we all do. Start small, but of course have fun. When consumers see that you are having fun and enjoying what you're doing, even the hard days, that is a selling point because they can see the joy on your face. So make sure to have fun in your ag venture. And remember, if it doesn't make money, it's a hobby. Okay? The goal is to generate money. All right, so my name is Ashley Pellerin. I thank you all for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm here. I'm gonna come over and bring the mic to you.
That big and first time rancher into the business, and so you say it's not a habit. If it doesn't make money, it's a hobby. But at the beginning, and with all the mistakes and learning and all that, you can't really consider it a hobby because you're still trying to learn how to be a business. So how do you get past that?
Right. So I say that to remind people that the profit needs to be at the forefront of your mind. No, you're not going to be profitable that first year, maybe not that second year, or that even that third year, depending on what you're doing. But if your point is to make a profit, then it's not a hobby, it is a business. and you're now, that turns into investment. You are investing in your business, your enterprise, whatever you feel that you're going, that you're trying to move forward and become profitable at. Some people start off making, like, I work a lot with goats, and some people start off and they're like, I have goats and I'm gonna put 5 goats and I'm gonna breed these, and then they start naming. And anybody who's in livestock, once you start naming those animals, they're not animals anymore, they're pets. So now you have went from an ag business enterprise to a hobby of goat collecting. So you always have to think with the profit in mind.
And I do, I just wanted to clear that up, and I am developing.
Excellent.
Could you repeat that question that you just answered?
Oh, the question was, most people won't be profitable their first, second, or third years. So she was asking, how is it considered a hobby if, you know, why is it not considered a hobby? Ugh, that wasn't your question. Let me start over. The question was, most people don't make a lot of money their first, second, or third years. So if they don't make money, is it still considered a hobby? And again, that's why I said it's still considered a business until you start naming those animals. Once you lose the idea of the profit is the point, then that's when you lose focus on it being a business instead of a hobby. Any other questions? All right, well, yes, sir.
I have a comment.
Okay, a comment.
My comment is that if you're going to get involved in agriculture, in many cases, you will not make a profit.
I'm gonna give you the mic.
2 or 3 years. It's just long term. What I'm trying to say is that if you get involved in agriculture, any form of agriculture, basically you're not going to make a profit in 1, 2, or 3 years. You're in it for the long haul. The reason that you're involved in it, you got to have a passion for it. And that passion is going to drive you to be at your very best. And so, I mean, the enterprise that we set up on paper, we said that we would be able to make a profit in 7 years. It took us 11 years to break even. And so you got to be flexible. And you got to have members of the team. You got to have a good CPA. You got to have, a good banker, good credit union, ties with the USDA, ties with the Cooperative Extension Service. Programs like this, the more knowledge you gain, the better you will be. And so, but if you're looking at making a profit, I can name many, many different farms and ranchers that will not make a profit in 1 or 2 years because of the equipment. A good example, I mean, I'm not involved at that end of it, but I've worked in it for 49 years. You look see these big cotton bales, making the big round bales. One of those John Deere pieces of equipment costs about $850,000. And if you're buying something like that, how long is it going to take for you to pay for it? You know, and so, I mean, many of us are not involved at that end of it, but, I've been blessed to be a part of this industry for 49 years. And so I've seen a lot. I've seen the success and I've seen the failures. But the bottom line is that when you're flexible and it's in your presentation, basically, you got to be able to roll with punches. But the gift that God has given you, if you run with that, you're not going to make a mistake. You will stumble. Everything is not going to shine.
And I didn't expect to make a profit. I've had a couple of businesses, and I know it's over 3 to 5 years to turn a profit, pretty much in most businesses, unless you got a lot of money. But that one little statement, I think I've heard it several times before, and I just wanted to just say, well, knowing that it could be a hobby if you don't have the long-term focus, I just kind of wanted to just mention that just because you had to tell me. And yeah, I totally understand that there's no profit in sight right now.
All right. So So we are, for the online people, we are going to transition to the next, we're gonna do the panel.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna transition to the next panel. We're gonna briefly put you on mute so that we can rearrange the room just briefly, and then we'll be right back.
All right, so, to get restarted, we're gonna, transition over to these three awesome ladies from the Landowners Association of Texas. This is Miss Barbara Lange, Diane Brown, and Ginger Perry.
You guys mixed up.
Ginger Perry and Diane Brown, I apologize, I'm so sorry. But we're gonna get started. They're gonna talk about 101 activities and industries in the ag industry.
I'm gonna do a little experiment. Do I need this mic?
Yes.
I do? Okay. I don't know how I'm gonna do that. Good morning. In the spirit of who we are, Landowners Association of Texas, we believe if you have knowledge that others light that candle on it. The LAT board invites you to join in a campaign to share the light with landowners across the state of Texas on how to retain, maintain, utilize, and create productive development of land. The Landowners Association is an organization that was started approximately 45 years ago. It was started by a fantastic man from Houston, Texas, whose name was Ernie Shaw. Ernie Shaw was one of the godfathers or grandfathers of Extension Service from PVAMU University, and he was an ag agent in Houston, Texas. He worked with a woman by the name of Synchronia Thompson. You may have seen Synchronia on television recently, lobbying for what's going on as it relates to voters' rights for Texans. She is one of the individuals who decided to take residence in Washington, D.C. temporarily and get involved again in another project. Synchronia became very concerned as a junior legislator some 45, 40, 46, 47 years ago. I'm telling you how old she is and how long she's been in legislation with the state of Texas. Anyway, she became concerned that people's land wound up on the courthouse steps for auction. She was especially concerned with how many African Americans lost their land and how many other farmers, doesn't matter who you were, if you didn't have the resources to pay the taxes or other many legal problems that could happen, your land came up on the auction block. Landowners Association, as we say, is extremely interested in looking at, if you look at this card that I have right here, we are interested in looking at stewardship, lifestyle, and legacy. We're interested in the environment, and underline, we're interested in economic development. Anybody want to have a go at what economic development means? It's the same thing Pellerin, Ashley's been talking about all morning. Money. We want to make money off of the property that we own. We want to make money. We want our landowners to make cents out of the property that they own. And therefore, we are so excited to partner with Prairie University School of Agriculture, as well as local extension agents, to talk to you about the fact that if you own land, you got heads up generally above persons who don't own land. That's your first collateral. When you talk about a business plan, as Ashley's been talking about all morning long, when you talk about when you're going to make money, when you're not going to take money. We're going to spend the next 2 sessions after this session with you to talk about a business plan. She spelled it out perfectly. We're going to give you some hands-on experience to be able to develop that plan. In answer to your question, whether it's a hobby or whether it's an application or a business, you can always say it was a hobby when you don't make money. Okay, after 10 years or so. Okay, I don't want you to be in that category. I want to be able to show you how you do what she's talking about. Figure out what your product is. We want you to know what your product is. We want you to do the research necessary to be able to establish a target market, create a niche, okay? Most people come to us and say, I want to be in business. And the first thing they want, I want you to give me a grant. Who will give you a grant if you don't know what you want to do? You cannot grow roses and corn and cotton and dogs and goats, and you don't know nothing about none of them, okay? Therefore, you have to be able to find your niche. You might grow some goats later on, but you got, as Ashley said, start off with what you know. Let me back up. This business is a hard-working business. If you are frail, and if you don't want to wear some boots, and if you don't want to wear some blue jeans, I wore what I got on today to tell you, don't dress like this, baby. It ain't gonna happen. You ain't gonna have no business coming out unless you go into market to sell your stuff, okay? This is your Sunday go to meeting kind of style when you market it. This is hard work. And if you go into it thinking otherwise, you've missed the boat completely. You're going to work hard. I think that everybody in here, I want to tell the people on the Zoom who these people are in this audience. Not only do we have people interested in learning how to do business, we got some pros in here, and we got some people from AgriLife who I came in here and met a man whose name is Abraham. I like that name. Abraham says to me, where are you from? I say, I'm from near Beaumont. He said, Raywood or Ames or Delmas or China. The man immediately let me know. He knew the territory, okay? If I ask Ashley, she's going to start naming all the entire state of Texas. I met Ashley in Tyler, Texas. She then moved from Tyler, Texas to Houston, Texas as an agri-person, agricultural oriented. Moved from Houston, Texas back to Prairie, A&M where she got started. The beauty of what you're going to do to quote Ashley again is, number one, know yourself. Is this for me? Can I do this? Do I want to pay the dues necessary to be in this kind of business? Number one. Number two, what do you know about business? I'm not saying if you haven't been in business before, you can't go into the business, but you got to work twice as hard because you got to research. In the process of researching, you want extension service, AgriLife, a university, we call ourselves a Landowners Association, science-based. I'm an economic development specialist. This is a real estate person, and this person is in the funeral home business. We don't know nothing about agriculture, so we go to the specialist. The first person, the first organization you got to become bedfellows with is AgriLife. Your extension agent in your community. Do you know your extension agent? All right, you know your extension agent? All right, who's your extension agent?
I am learning as of today, so I don't have a farm, but I have collateral to buy one, so I'm just getting the very basic information starting out.
All right.
It's good to know where I am.
Okay.
Where my agent will be.
That's right, that's a great answer, but you do know you need one, huh?
That's what
Absolutely.
I'm here because of the extension agent.
Absolutely.
And your organization.
That's your best, that's gonna be your best friend. Diane's gonna talk to you about all the kinds of friends you need when you go into business. Okay, so do you have the heart? Do you have the mind? Do you have the land? Do you have friends in the business that can do what a friend of mine, who's county commissioner up right outside of Boston, who says his dad taught him the way to learn about farming is to go talk to a farmer and sit a spell. So go sit a spell with the pros. We came up here last week, a week before last, and Braxton took us on a tour. That's the first thing he took us. And we saw these beautiful farms, cotton, beans, soybeans, corn, round bales of hay. I mean, this is a God-sent country as it relates to being able to visibly see what's going on. I'm going to work with Chamber of Commerce next time if I like, and I'm coming to this place to be in the Chamber of Commerce to market this place. This is a fabulous place. Go sit a spell. Find out somebody who's in the business and go sit a spell. Just like Abraham says to me, I can't tell Abraham what I know and what I don't know. He knows what to tell me. He knows about cooperatives. He knows about the rice farmers. He knows what product is being produced in probably not only Southeast Texas, but what do they call this? This is no longer Southeast Texas, is it? Is it? Okay, all of Southeast Texas. He knows all of that. Okay, I want to give you an idea of when you're doing your homework and when you're doing your research. Get broad. You don't have to plant just cotton and corn. I wish I had enough land and I had the right soil to plant that kind of stuff. But just because you may live in a place like where I come from, a wet one. I mean, it is wet when it don't rain. It's still wet, all right? Then I gotta be looking at something that is native to that particular area. You have before you something that I think most people who own land have never looked at. It's 101 ways you can make money from raw land. If you just look at the topics and you see that you can do things like have a space where you let out for recreational agriculture, rodeo space, where people come and they deal with just setting up and they start a rodeo. Oh my God, I love those people. They got these big old Winnebagos and they've got all these wonderful horses and trailers and this kind of thing. You own 200 acres, you own 100 acres, you own 30 acres, you can set up and work with that industry. And you can set up a business in recreational, in just that kind of thing. You can have bees. You can have a storage place. You can have community involvement to do recycling. There's all kinds of things in here that go beyond cows and goats and peaches and this kind of thing. Now, don't think that I'm knocking that. We did this workshop in Waco, Texas, 2 weeks ago. We did it at a farmer's market. And we did it where the farmers had all of their product that they had grown. And we presented to business people the idea of developing a business plan. They have the prettiest squash and the prettiest zucchini. And not one bug had ever bitten any of that product. They had okra, they had cherries, they had pears, they had preserves, they had Ashley, when you dehydrate the product and it's all It's all dried and this kind of stuff. Oh, wonderful stuff. Absolutely great stuff. They're going to be able to take that farmer's market because they form a cooperative. We're going to talk about businesses. We're going to talk about what kind of plan you want to put together for your business. We're going to talk about stuff like Abraham started talking to you about, where you do forecasting, you do projections for first year, second year, third year, fifth year. You're going to be able to see when it is you're going to break even. And then after you plot out all of that, you're going to pray a lot, because there's going to be some rain that you didn't anticipate, or there's going to be a sandstorm that you didn't anticipate. But in the development of a business plan, all of those kinds of things are put together so that you don't get disgusted in the middle of things and say, oh my God, I had these goats, but they were all African war goats, and I was keeping them, and some of them had names actually, you know, baby Babs and this kind of thing. When things aged out and nobody wanted to buy them because the meat was too tough, that was the first lesson I learned. You cannot have pets, okay? I've got 3 baby call ducks, they're called. They're about this big. They come on the patio and mess up so bad. Those are pets. Those are not product that I'm selling. I have to have some other products. But those 3, they're just spoiled and they're just absolute pets. So you got to know the difference between a pet and a product. Product is something that you're going to sell. In your business plan that was already outlined for you, we're going to put you through the test of creating for your own business. Now, it's going to be hard work because we're going to give you an assignment the first time we start working on this, and then your best friend is going to become the Apple computer. Well, my daughter works for Apple, so I'm not necessarily marketing that particular product, but I am saying that whoever, whatever computer, that's your best friend. We went up to Arkansas to the risk management unit for University of Arkansas, and we were all in this one car with a person that you will see next time, Lloyd Hebert. Lloyd Hebert is worse than Ash. He wrote the book on business, and he is going to be our presenter next week. We never talked to each other all the way to Arkansas, because every time somebody would say a word or two, well, ask Siri what the answer is. You're going to become best friends with Siri, what's another, Alexa, one of the things. You're going to talk to them all day. You're going to be out there in the field looking at those bees and looking at those ant piles, and you're going to realize that they're studying the ants for research for all kinds of new things that the university knows about. We don't know about. But when you in relationship with the university, the agri-life people, they gonna tell you. And if they don't know, they will quickly tell you, I can't fix your pond, but you need to know NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation. You need to know FSA. You need to know USDA. You need to know HUD. You are going to become bedfellows with all of the USDA agencies, and they're going to become as important to you as Siri, okay? It's okay that you don't know. Go find out. Go ask somebody something. Go sit a spell with Siri, or sit a spell with Mr. Abraham. What's that other gentleman sitting next to you, Mr. Abraham, who knows everything about everything? Okay, go sit a spell with these people so you can find out. Now, when Lord Hebert comes, he is going to give you assignments. You don't know how hard it is, or either I'm retarded. I want to tell you just a little bit about who I am and what I do. I'm in what's called recreational agriculture. I started off in 1990 researching what I needed to put in my business plan, and I didn't open my official formal doors until 2004. Did you hear what I said? I started studying what it is that I was going to do in 1990. Okay, maybe I'm slow, but I didn't know what I was about to get into as it related to the aspect of owning a business. However, I had 40 years running the United Way agency, so I had a little cut above. But even with that, when you work for somebody and you do something for somebody versus doing something for yourself is totally and completely different. Because at the end of the day, the evaluation of whether you are a business person or whether you're running a hobby then falls on your shoulders. Okay? So I took 10 years. In the process, I did feasibility, market studies. I got to know. I had 12 agencies that were invited to my vacant farm, my vacant land, to come out, and they were convened by a guy named Arnold Brown. Arnold Brown was one of the best agents Houston ever saw. He was also a very successful businessman. Arnold said to each one of these, NRCS, HUD, FSA, the Rice Farmers Association, all of these kinds of things. Okay, she's going to tell you about her business plan, which I did. Then he said to each one of them, what you going to do for her? What you going to do for her? What you going to do for her? Okay? Ducks Unlimited said, we're gonna design a pond so that we can pull this water off of this wetland. So they designed a pond. Somebody else, NRCS, said, okay, this has to do with conservation, so we're gonna give her an equip grant. Y'all don't have to ask me what that is right now. We're going into that. We're gonna have specialists that he has invited from these agencies who's gonna tell you about that. I'm not going to try to tell you what they do and then it ain't right. But they did dig my pond, okay? And they did design my pond. And they did tell me to plant Bahia grass because that's what goats like. And I did have goats and I was interested in goats. But primarily, I'm recreational because I do retreats on environmental sustainability and ecosystems for schools, for children, for senior citizens, for bridging that gap between senior citizens and the intergenerational. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity when I have a group of senior citizens who come out and we write their biography for them so they can be read at their funeral and their children can stick their chest out and say, that's my grandma. And hopefully be motivated to take on that responsibility later on. So then, I do a environmental sustainability, and if you look through your packet, you'll see one of my flyers that shows you what my facility looks like and where it is, and this kind of thing. It's on a card, and if you're interested in that kind of thing, let me know. From that, I found a lot of people who were homeless, and everybody called me up. I'm recreational, okay. Burning homes. Okay, I can put a family up in a bunkhouse. And I can have the people in my bunkhouse for 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks until, unfortunately for them, they got to deal with me because I'm a retired social worker. And so I know a little bit about doing health and human services. Capitalize on what you know. What do you know? What have you done before? What kind of business have you been in before?
What I've been doing for the past 25 years is I've been a buyer for corporate America, so I know how to manage budget and find things that are efficient, as cheap as you can get, and
Okay.
as fast as you can get.
She comes to the table with something. Analyze what you know about. What you know about? I'm sorry? real estate, all right, okay? If you come to the table empty-handed, this young lady, I think she's the youngest woman in the room, that's fantastic that she's starting now. The rest of y'all, it's never too late, because look at the color of my hair, and I'm still here, okay? Don't get discouraged, don't be jealous. I mean, she's got a head start, because she's starting now. But some of us started before our hair got to be this color, okay? And we're gonna use what created the opportunity for our hair to get this color. That means, Abraham, we were in the ditches, we were jumping ditches, we were learning all of these kinds of things that we needed to know in order to be where we are today. My bed and breakfast went from a bunkhouse to this particular flyer that you see, which is an opportunity to serve veterans. And so I do affordable housing for veterans. I have tiny houses, and my tiny houses are very, very unique. And we do a whole bunch of things for veterans, including career training, as well as job placement, and ultimately permanent housing for them. If you want to know more about this, you got phone numbers and this kind of thing. If you want to come and see me, you can do that. If you want to talk to me afterwards about this kind of project, the excitement of this project for me is all of us have land. And I went to Redwood, Texas, Abraham, as a 30-year person in real estate. I knew real estate. I had rental property. I managed over 32 buildings for the agency that I worked for. I knew about transportation. I was smart. I knew a bunch of stuff. When I got to Redwood, a rural community, I was the dumbest thing there. Okay, you tell me to shut up? Okay, all right, I will shut up. Anyway, we're going to move on to two other areas that you're going to be surprised what they're going to talk about. But listen, there is so much more to knowing what we have to do than you think. And we're not different from most businesses. We are a business. I'm going to introduce to you Diane Brown, who's going to tell you about connections in the community, who you got to know, what you got to do in that 10-year period that it took me to figure out how I'm going to be educated and not be so dumb in a rural community. Rural life is totally and completely different from urban life. I said to somebody earlier, I have a rural mentality. If you ain't got no rural mentality, you ain't gonna survive, okay? Diane, tell them about some of the things that you, Diane comes from my hometown, and her family, the Wycliffes, were one of the very first African-American families to buy like 4,000 acres when they were on their way from Mexico coming back to Louisiana, and they stopped off in Liberty County, and then they bought up a whole bunch of land. And so we'll talk about that at another meeting. Diane.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Diane Brown, and I am in agriculture, but I am also in the funeral business. My agriculture background, as Barbara just told you, is my family bought over 4,000 acres way back when. I never knew that being in the watermelon patch at my grandfather's was going to lead me to being the only one out of 32 grandkids to go back to agriculture. My husband and I bought 30 acres in Angleton, Texas. We are now doing a cow calf operation and selling hay. That's one side of my life. The other side of my life is that my parents were in the funeral industry in Houston, Texas. I ran the funeral home for 30 plus years. And then I decided, I don't want to do this anymore. I've got burnout. So I sold it and stayed out of the industry for 5 years, and an opportunity came up in Bay City. So I decided, I could do this again. I really think I really could. So then I go and I talk to Barbara, and the first thing out of her mouth is, do you have a business plan? I'm like, oh God, I've been dreading this. But writing a business plan gave me the opportunity to see what was in that county, what was in that city. It told me the average age of people there. It told me the average income of people there. It told me the possibilities for growth in that area. And so then I could determine whether or not that's what I really wanted to do in that area. Thank goodness it was all positive, and I made the decision to go ahead and open a business there. It took me about 3 months to get a business plan that she would even look at, because she kept saying, okay, give me the projections. Give me what you're gonna have for startup. Give me what you need in 3 years. Show me the salary that you're going to pay. Get a CPA, start getting things in line so that when you do decide to open, you're ready. The things that I didn't think about, or that I wrote in the business plan, but I didn't go back and actually do, were things like insurance. Insurance on the building, insurance for my professional capabilities, insurance for if somebody fell and slipped at the building, then I needed insurance for that. So then that was a whole nother part that I hadn't even addressed. So it's no different when you go into the agriculture business. It's a business. You have to have insurance. The agencies will provide that information for you. When I tell my husband, okay, the drought was declared in our county, go down to FSA or whichever agency has provided that information for us, go and file for it. Because I'm the person in my family that makes sure that those dates are met. I keep it on a calendar. I have a log of what needs to be done when. Then I have to turn around and go and take care of the funeral home insurance. So you have to be able to have all the bases covered. When you start writing your business plan, that's one of the things that you need to research to see if your crop or your animals can be insured. Because when the drought comes, you definitely want to be able to go and file in that area for whatever it is that you need to have covered. The other thing is when you open businesses, and I'm including agriculture and the funeral business when I'm talking to you, you need to know who your mayor is, know who your city council people are, know who your legislators are, because those are the people that at some point in time, you're gonna have to go and talk to. In my situation in the funeral business opening in Bay City, I immediately went and met the mayor. He immediately introduced me to the city manager. The city manager then introduced me to the chief of police. And then from there, it just went down, down, down the lane. So now when I have a problem, I can call and say, may I speak to Sergeant Shook? This is Diane Brown from from Family Care Mortuary in Bay City. And you say, oh yeah, I remember, I met you. Join the Chamber of Commerce. Those are the people that will have your back if something comes up, or they will be able to tell you what's going on in your area that you need to be aware of. Bay City's Chamber of Commerce is called Bay City Chamber of Commerce and Agriculture. When I saw that, I was like, okay, this may be some different kinds of opportunities. But you have to know what's going on in your surroundings. Yeah, you're on 100 acres, but you can't sit in the middle at the 50 and say, oh, I'm just waiting on people to pass by here and come on in. That's not how it works. You have to get out there. If your ag agent knows that you're there and you're in the middle of the 50 acres, they know to tell people, drive on in. They're in the middle. but you have to bring people to your place. You have to show them what you have. Ms. Pellerin did an excellent job this morning on telling you how you have to market. Marketing is the most important thing that you can do once you get established. When I talk about the different agencies that you have to go through, I went through an experience in opening the funeral home in Bay City because they wanted me to file for a variance, meaning that the city had a problem with something that I was trying to do. Well, because I had met the mayor and the city manager, I called them and said, okay, I've done the research on this. Can I bring it to your office and you look over it? When I went to the variance meeting, they had all gone through the same research that I went through, and my variance was approved. And it was because they didn't want me to put the fluids in the city sewer system. But once the research was done, they realized that I was not putting enough in the system to have a problem. But I had done the research for them. So then they realized that, okay, this lady really knows what she's talking about. And it makes a difference that I knew who to go to. The other thing that I'd like to emphasize to you is that when you go into a business, you need at least 6 to 12 months of capital. Because in 6 to 12 months, you're going to find out whether or not you really want to do this. It starts out a great idea, you get into it, 8 months down the road, you say, oh my God, what have I done? This is not going to work, and I don't have enough money to pay the bank for the land. But if you had planned in advance for 6 to 12 months to be able to cover all of your expenses, then you know, okay, I'm in 8 months, I got that little savings I put over at the credit union, let me run over there. And because I have capital, then they will give me a small loan against the capital that I have put up over there. So you have to think out of the box. You can't just stay in, oh, I'm raising goats. The goats are gonna have 2 babies apiece, and then I'm gonna sell them, and they may not have any babies, or the babies might get smothered, and then you have no babies, so then you're stuck out in month number 8. So you gotta think in advance, you gotta think out of the box. You have to be able to do different things. Okay, the goats didn't make it, but I've got hay that I bought for the goats for 8 months. Okay, sell that hay, you don't have the goats anymore. You have to be different. You have to be able to make adjustments. The line is not gonna be straight. You know what they say, it's not always roses. And when the thorns are left, you gotta be able to tiptoe through the thorns in the bushes. The next thing I'd like to tell you is, and Ms. Pellerin said it so eloquently, have something else that people can do. In my funeral home, I have a room about half of this size that I was going to use for the boys' room, where they would have exercise equipment, they have a TV, so when they're not busy, they could just lounge and have a good time. Well, that wasn't going to bring me anything. That wasn't going to bring people into the funeral home. That was just going to be for them to lay around. So I took all of the exercise equipment out. I took the couches out. I took the TV out. And I put round tables in there. So now if the Rotary Club wants to have a small meeting, they can come to my building. The more people I have in the building, the more people see what I have to offer. So you have to think of something different. If a church wants to have a ladies' tea, they don't have to go to Wharton to have a tea. They can come to my place. So you have to be able to think out of the box. And I was so proud of myself when my godmother came and she said, this was an excellent idea. So, and you have to have a mentor. Your mentor will tell you This is a good idea, or this is not a good idea. And you have to be able to take criticism. Criticism sometimes is the hardest thing to take because you think you have the greatest idea in the world, but nobody else might not think so. And somebody outside of your realm of friends and family needs to tell you, this is not the greatest idea. You need to go back and rethink this. Let's tweak it over here or tweak it over there. You can listen, and then you have to make up your own mind. But when it doesn't work out, you're going to hear that little voice in the back of your head. That wasn't really a good idea. So let me just conclude with, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. It's hard to get up in the morning to go do something that you have developed a real distaste for. So in the beginning, find something that you absolutely love, and it will be easy to prosper and make money doing it. Thank you.
I want to introduce to you this young lady who came here from Alabama, and she's perfect to become a more effective business person she already is. She is a very successful realtor. Somebody in the audience is in real estate. That's what it is, y'all. When you got land, that's real estate. And you can call it a farm or whatever you want to call it. But Ginger is going to share with us some things that we have to know from the standpoint of this is real estate and this is what you got to do. And she is a businesswoman.
Thank you, Ms. Bass, Ms. Lange. Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing? And hello to our Zoom watchers on the internet. I'm really excited about being here and getting this opportunity. So I want to, yes, discuss as much as I can because real estate is so broad that it encompasses a lot. But I have a few points I want to share, and hopefully this will help someone. So looking at our attention to my slide here, we have, go to the first slide, please go back. Let's start with real estate. Real estate, land ownership, grow your dreams. It can be a variety of things, whatever it is personally that's interesting to you. But let's start with real estate. So the question or the definition and answer question is, what is real estate? Well, property consisting of land or buildings or both. Some people decide, getting into business, they want to do strictly land, and some say, okay, I want to build, construct, and so forth, and rent out spaces, etc. But that's the definition of real estate. Now we're having various elements. Like I said, it's a huge plethora of information about real estate, but here are a few elements I have researched to hopefully give you a pinpoint of what to do and know about real estate. Let's talk about land. When you have land, you have terrain, you have meets and bounds, and parcels. Well, terrain is basically bottom line stretch of land. You want to know about that type of land, not just, I think a lot of people go on to Google Maps, what have you, or Google Earth. The main thing is to visit the land. Rate acreage, whether it's 1 acre or 100 acres or 1,000 acres. Take the time. It's going to be a little costly, yes, in your pocket, have a little deep pocket there, but still go ahead and take the time to visit the property and get a professional that will accompany you. These are professionals that I'll speak later on. But anyway, the meets and bounds are synonymous with geography of the land features, directions, the distance, and plainly the boundaries of each parcel. You want to know what you're buying is what you're buying. Because so many landowners trust someone else's survey and come find when they actually do it later when they get ready to sell, they're finding out that their land is either additional or minimized. So you may have an adjustment on the taxes on that. Feasibility, usage, and marketability. Feasibility is, as we discussed in the panel, and that is to lessen your risk. You should do your research in developing and proving your viability, your practicality and profitability. This means researching what the numbers will mean once you wanted to develop this land. What will it bring back to you? The other part about it is marketability, and that is hand in hand with feasibility, that you're analyzing the demand and making sure that demand will meet supply. So you'll know what your numbers, your profit will come back on. If you realize you're in a certain area and it does not bring the numbers back according to your research with other businesses being in that area, then why do it? Because they're losing money, so what does that mean? You may be losing money as well. And like Ms. Ashley mentioned, what will set you apart from the same business or company? If you're doing anything differently, then sure, you may have that edge, but you'll have to do your research on getting that product or market, product or services to make the profit margin look better. Now we have other factors that you should know prior to buying the property. First of all, when you're researching land, beautiful trees will have you just looks like an easy purchase, an easy thing. But actually, there's cleared, there's wooded or synonymous of treed, and you have flood zone, utilities, wetlands, cell, internet service, restriction, mineral rights, lease transfers, taxing authority, and regulations. When you're looking at researching of the properties and it's wooded, you're not looking just at the trees only. It is the land development, and basically what my detailed research is, and let me say, YouTube has become my best friend. I spend so many hours, I have to say, I apologize about the cross-eyed up here. But spending hours on YouTube and various websites to give you additional information. Take that time. That's another well-invested time. But cleared wooded trees, you may have wetlands. Wetlands is an environmental protected section of the property that you think you can come and build a structure on. Well, that is, as they say, that is the Department of Environmental, and it's protected. So you're assuming, I cannot, that's minus the land amount that you purchased. So you have to make an adjustment. Utilities. Okay, I just had a client that's interested in buying some land as an example. And in my research as her realtor, she's interested in buying about 30, 40 acres, whichever. And come to find out, there's no utilities out there. So, okay, what and how can we get utilities out there? Come to find out, there may be a post a half a mile or 3 miles away. That half a mile should maybe cost 10 grand. Okay, no problem, she says. But when I suggested it may be 2 or 3 miles, that price point increased her debt to almost $200,000. It'd be $200,000, $300,000. And we're talking just 2 miles away, 2 miles away. I'm sorry. My little bag will have extension. So we have to be mindful of utilities. We discussed about wetlands. That's just not just a flooded area, but it's a protected area from the local agencies. You also want to be able to have internet and cell services. Why be out there when you cannot make communication to the outside world? Sure, you want to get back and away from the city, but you still want to have communication. That's a cost as well. Restrictions. There are, as I've learned in my research, that there are HOA restrictions, even in rural areas as this. And you have to verify that because you may not be able to build, you may not be able to put a structure single family. It may be only recreation, like Ms. Barbara said. It may be only camping. It may be only shooting range, etc. I know it's another example. They may have a motor cars, you want to just be sure what that type of land is, available. The next one is mineral rights. We're looking at only the surface, but what's beneath the surface? You want to definitely get your information about what your rights are when you purchase that land. Is it transferable? Who maintains that right? The next will be lease transfers. If a previous owner has a property and they have leased out a couple of guys that want to do camping or hunting, you want to make sure that you have those leases still in effect or when they expire. And that way you'll be able to adjust your price point and it adds value. The next will be taxing authorities and regulations. We always have to comply with our taxing authorities in terms of what's what. So that way their revenue comes from your property. Next, we'll look at zoning, which I want to stick a little bit on flood zone up there. Flood zone basically is determining from your FEMA what amount of land is in the flood zone. I would strongly advise researching that, because you'll also find out that that will increase your expenses on having insurance. You have to have coverage. And FEMA, they're saying, okay, if you know you're going to be building in a flood area, then we're going to request or require insurance coverage for that. Now, when you're owning land or you want to purchase land, the question you must ask yourself, do I own all rights to this property? And the best agency that would be able to answer that is a title company. In real estate, we rely heavily on title company researchers and producing information, even from the very beginning of the inception of the property. So you want to make sure that the ownership that is being stressed to you is the right person and party to sell you the property. Sometimes, I know in airship, the property may have been owned by great, and the property is still in their name. So when the fourth cousin down wants to decide, I want to sell the property because no one else is involved, they don't have that right. They'll have to go through the court system, hire an attorney, because there may not have been a probated will, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you want to get that information done first. And this is what the words you must always hear, and that is clear title. Clear title will give you the authority to say, now it is mine. And also, you'll be avoiding other risk factors in the event that, say, there's that same property, a painter did some work 5 years ago, and the owner still haven't finished paying to that painter, that professional contractor. He or she can easily go down to the courts and put a lien on the property and say you owe them, we'll just make it pathetic. You owe them $1 and you refuse to pay them that $1. That $1 will prevent the sale of that property unless that debt is satisfied. Next thing is information regarding claims and liens. Claims is the same thing. It's whoever that can drive. I understand from another situation I was working on. And someone just hypothetically just put a claim on a house, never did work on it. And you have to make sure you maintain records. I cannot stress that enough. Maintain records, and now I, in my own research, have found out if you get a form, have an attorney draw it up, and have a form drawn up to say, this work is completed, have that contractor sign and say, he have now released all of his rights to claim. That is a very, very critical part, because you still know what people's motives are. Times are changing, times are hard. And as we know with real estate right now, the best time to buy real estate was 5 years ago. It's crazy. In some of the in some of these markets that I have researched with clients, believe it or not, in less than a month, a property was valued X dollars. Less than 30 days, that property has increased in value, or should I say in listing price, $30,000 to $40,000. It is crazy. The other matters involving real estate, and I should have touched base on this a little bit earlier, more so, but even when you're doing a single family and you want to build on land, there's so many options about building on land. You can build single family homes, you build multi-family homes, apartments, buildings, office space, etc. But whenever you're adding value to the property, number one thing will change the value of that property is by appraising. Whenever you do improvements, appraiser will come out and assess what the value of those improvements are. This will add value to your property. This will add value to your land. What if you go out and you put, build a pond, add additional drainage, what have you. Those are added values that you need to consider and put into your business plan and make sure that that is taken care of. But this will impact the appraisal estimate value, and it can be a simple kitchen remodel. It can be a simple bathroom remodel. It can be a simple garage conversion, although I would not advise that because a lot of times people do want their garage, you know. And the most important thing when we're all dealing with real estate in terms of land or buildings is hire your professionals. And speaking with several of the experts here in the room, and it is important that if you don't know, even if it takes you a year to do your research, it's a well worth time. Because once you jump into something and it costs you $5 by your lack of, I'll just say ignorance of lack of knowledge, that $5 can actually turn into $500. Why take the risk? So minimize your risk and talk to experts. And basically what I say, I'm an expert, yes, but there are so much I don't know. And I still seek other realtors in the profession. Talking to a realtor that's 30 years in the business, and even he said, I will never know everything. So you always go to someone, collaborate with what you need to find out. But definitely hire a surveyor. A surveyor is going to survey the property, understand what the boundaries are, and then give you an idea of the price point of what that would be. And appraiser will do the similar thing. Title insurance will also research all the information for you and give you a little bit of time to either reconcile what's needed. You may have 21 days, you may have 45 days, but at least get that done. And of course, main thing is, hiring an attorney. If you do not have an attorney, usually when you do a title insurance, they run the paperwork through an attorney and they will advise. So always be open-minded for that. The next thing is when you're buying land, this is something I didn't know. When there's no water in terms of like utilities, etc. If you decide to, I guess, talk to the neighbors and say, oh yeah, I dug about 15 feet. That was just for them. And your property is a good 30 acres, 2 miles away. And not to mention, it may be in a landlocked situation. That's another another problem that you may want to research in depth. But come to find out, dealing with water, if their water went to 15 feet, you may have to dig until you reach water, which may be 30 feet, 70, 700 feet. That's additional expense you didn't count on. So you have to prepare yourself for these unexpected. I always say expect the unexpected. And of course, builders. Builders have their requirements from the city, the state, etc., and they have to pull permits. Permits are critical because you don't want lawsuits coming back. That's why they stand firm is what their professions do. And they can pull permits to get authorization to build or to construct because they have regulations and rules and codes they have to follow. But in essence, real estate, I know I didn't go a lot over everything I have. Isn't detailed, but basically the bottom line is if you're interested in buying, regardless if it's a single family, multifamily, or land acreage, definitely talk to the community. People are so happy about sharing. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to reach out to the panel and we'll be here. But I'm Ginger Perry, Get Realty, and I'm thankful and grateful to be here.
This particular book, I want to call attention to this book that we gave you. This was put together by the legal department of the Federation of Southern Cooperatives, another partner of Landowners Association. It's a fantastic Bible on everything Ginger just talked about as it relates to specifically air property. When you're dealing with air property, 9 times out of 10, everything that Ginger has talked about, right on this presentation, you have to face this. Please use this as your Bible related to what it is you need to know for you to make sure you have a clear title. We thank you so much for allowing Landowners Association to partner with Braxton Mitchell has been fantastic, and we at Landowners Association want to be able to applaud your local office and what's going on and how Prairie A&M University is injecting a fluid that we think is exciting here in this county.
Thank you all so much. If anybody has any questions, we could address those now. If you have any questions on Zoom, please, ladies.
Some people online want to know how they can get a copy of the book.
They can contact Landowners Association of Texas. They can call 936-587-4325, and we'll see to it that they get a copy of the book.
Okay, in case you didn't hear that, if you'd like a copy of the book that Ms. Lange spoke about, contact Landowners Association of Texas, and I believe that Ashley is typing in the contact info there. We'll also get you contact info in the chat for everyone that's speaking today. So, I have one more question.
I had a real estate question because as I've been looking at properties online, I found, so this goes to the airship that you were talking about. I've been looking at properties online and areas that I want to be in. And I found a property and it was about 38, 39 acres. And it said that it is brother or sister owned, brother is selling his interest, but you would have use of the full 60 if you bought his. And I'm thinking, that just sounds like a crazy trap. It doesn't sound right. And you're probably getting off into way more than you need. Is that when you, if you really wanted the property, is that when you would hire a real estate attorney to help guide you through that whole process to make sure that you don't get caught up in a mess of a loophole?
No doubt, absolute, no doubt. Definitely get an attorney, because if one sibling decides, thank you, no doubt you should consult a real estate attorney, because no doubt where if one sibling has a different opinion, or maybe one sibling, or should I say the parent passed, and then there's children of another sibling, then you have to get to those children as well to get permission.
You probably want to take a look at any property that has no clear title. For you to buy the property and for you to have minimum number of headaches, you must start off with your attorney, as she said, and you have got to have clear title. You don't want to bring all that baggage in there. Landowners Association is working with one family right now where we're trying to get a clear title and get a designated point for each person in the family. 102 people we have to talk to, okay? Because the children's children, and then somebody's dead, and then they got some more children coming to the table. It's not worth it, you know? You would do best. I'm not an attorney, but an attorney would probably advise you, unless you got multi-million dollars to help them clear that title, that you leave that one alone, go find another one.
So one of your first steps before you start getting surveys and spending all the money on all the extra, the other stuff on the list is do a title search first, if there's any question about it.
Yes, and you can always go to a title company initially without going through all the steps at first. And it may cost a couple $100 to $400 or $500, you know, give or take. But it's worth it because you have to engage, your attorney will have to engage certified mail, regular mail. They have various means that they must, protocol must be followed.
Okay.
And that expense is forwarded on to the end user, the interest
A
buyer.
lot of don't even try to do it yourself, hire your professional.
Oh, yeah, hire your professional, for
It
sure.
covers your butt.
Yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am.
Hey, do we have any more questions online?
No.
Okay, well, thank y'all so much. We can give them a round of applause again. We will transition into our last speaker. It'll be Mr. John Abraham from Circle Farms and Ranch. All right, we're gonna keep it rolling. We're gonna move over to Mr. John Abraham. Like I said, he's local of Wharton County, and he'll be coming and telling you his story.
Good morning to everyone.
Morning.
My name is John Abraham, and I'm local. I'm here in Wharton County. A part of my story is that I grew up in central Louisiana. I grew up farming and ranching and been around it all of my life. And my mentor in high school was my vocational agricultural instructor, Irvin C. Hall. And upon graduating from high school, I decided to go to Southern University, majored in agriculture. Upon graduating in 1973, I decided to go on to grad school, which I entered LSU, working on a master's in agriculture. But I ended up with 24 hours on my master's degree program. But Standard Oil of California came along and offered me a job to go to work in the agricultural industry. So my family and I, we transferred from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Houston in 1976, and we're still in Texas today. So basically, in relation to ranching, we came up with a dream. We lived in Houston for 20-some years and had a chance to work at the corporate office for DuPont in Wilmington, Delaware. But I knew that I didn't want to retire on the East Coast. We wanted to get back to Texas. So the best thing that we could do was to come back to Texas and try to find a little piece of land in the country. And we were very blessed to be able to find a piece of land in Wharton County. And that's where we are today. Going to the next slide. My wife and I, basically, we operate about 475 acres, and we're somewhat diversified. We have hay, cattle, and pecans. Basically, on our hay, we focus upon two different types of hay. We focus upon what we call premium horse hay, high protein hay. We have both jigs, coastal Bermuda grass. We also have Tifton 85 coastal Bermuda grass. Premium horsehair. We donate 300 to 400 bales to the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo for them to resell. And so our hay content, the crude protein run on an average between 16 and 19%. Now, that's high protein. And so basically, in order to get that, we have to fertilize, we have to spray our fields, we have to keep it free of weeds, but that's my background, and it's rather easier for us to do. It's easier for me to do it physically than sometimes spending the money in order to get it done. And I'll talk about a little of that as we go on. We also have a new entity that just came back from the Oklahoma Pecan Association. We went to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, which is over near Tulsa. They had the pecan meeting in Oklahoma. And my wife and I just came back from San Marcos. Texas Pecan Growers Association just had their state conference in San Marcos. So we were there for 4 days. So just like all of the other speakers have talked about gaining knowledge, we go to these conferences not to just attend, we're seeking knowledge. We think that we're doing a good job, but we want to be in a position to do better. We want to be much more effective in what we're doing. So in operating roughly about 475 acres, at one time I had just under 1,200 acres. And having 1,200 acres and then working a full-time job, it was just too much. So we really have to scale back. So we are comfortable in the area that we're in right now. We were blessed to have 3 children. And when you got kids in high school, you got kids in college, it's rather expensive. It's rather expensive. Next slide. These are like our hay meadow. This is jigs, coastal Bermuda grass. And you look at a meadow like that, any landowner would be proud. If you came to our ranch and Cheryl Schooler is here, she buy hay from us. We donate hay to our grandson. And basically, when you walk into a field like that, I think you would feel proud to buy the hay. But it doesn't come overnight. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of dollars spent. There's a lot of effort. I get up a lot of mornings at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning trying to figure out what we need to do to really improve upon these fields. Next. Here's another jigs, coastal Bermuda grass. And if you notice in these fields, I stated that we deal in 2 different types of hay. We deal in premium horse hay, but also top-end cattle hay. You don't see a lot of weeds in our fields, and everybody that have come and purchased hay from us well know that we deal in top-end horse hay. You know, we like to be doing the best of the best. There are people, Harry Goodo is one of the largest hay producers in this county, has more acreage, has a lot more equipment. But when it comes to fields like that, we can refine them in a way that they can't do it on 2,000 and 3,000 acres. And so that we're proud of. But you got to have a passion for working with this. It's not about dollars. We're not making a lot of money. There's years that we've made money. And I can tell you there have been years we've lost money. And this year already, we are already 2 cuttings behind every hay producer in this county because of the rainfall. We are 2 cuttings behind, so we've already lost money. So, you know, we might end up in the red this season. Combined with that, we're in the month of August. And in the month of August and September, it's armyworm season. When you fertilize these hay meadows heavily and they're lush in their growth, what is really taking place is that armyworms are very attractive to them. And I've had 3 or 4 fields in the last 2 weeks that actually cleaned the fields. And I had pictures of those, but I didn't put them in this presentation. But that was a tremendous cost. Matter of fact, some of my neighbors even commented that Abraham allowed the armyworms to eat up his fields, but it was a little bit more involved in that. Certainly I have the knowledge to know what we need to spray in a timely manner, but I couldn't get my hands on a sprayer. All of my suppliers that we buy chemicals from, that we rent those sprayers, they were tied up. So you got to have your own, Braxton. And that was a lesson for me. Next slide. We cut in a field of Tifton 85, and if you notice on all of these fields, we really do not have weedy fields. All of my fields are not premium fields, but I can honestly stand here and say, if you rode by and looked at our field, you will not see weedy fields in our operation, but we're a small producer compared to a lot of other hay producers in this county. Next. Here's another slide of one of our premium fields of jigs, coastal Bermuda grass. And we have people that come from Houston, San Antonio, Victoria. We've got 900 and some hay customers. And out of those 900 and some customers, people that will buy from us one time, 85% of them will come back year after year. And so that's a blessing in itself. Here is another Tifton 85. As I stated up front, we have two different types of coastal Bermuda grass. We have jigs coastal Bermuda grass, which is their finer grass, but we also have Tifton 85. Tifton 85, we can get our crude protein contents in the range of right around that 17, 18% when we heavily fertilize. We have fertilized some hay millers twice, a double application of fertility, which really costs you dearly, especially in today's market. And when we did that, our protein went up to 21, 24%. And we had it analyzed at Texas A&M, and we got those results back. But you don't make much money at that because the money is going into the crop. So you can't afford to fertilize a field twice like that if you expect to make $1 out of it. But it's good bragging rights anyway. That's about all. You can go to the next one. In our small cattle operation, at one time, we had about 87 head of cattle that we were running, but our cattle operation was a little bit different. We used the cattle operation to help with our children's college education. And so one of the things that we learned very early on, you can't go to the bank and borrow everything that you need. If you don't have a rich uncle or auntie, cows is the next best thing. We can go and load up the calves and take them to the market, sell what we need to generate a cash flow. If we did not generate enough cash, then we go back and start culling the cows. And we can still generate it, but still we did not borrow a penny, from the bank as far as trying to educate our children. Our daughter went to NYU for 2 years and came back to University of Texas in Austin, graduated, and by the grace of God, she was accepted into UT Law School. And today she is a lawyer in Dallas. And our oldest son, Michael, he went to Texas A&M, went there in mechanical engineering, did very well in math. So the business department came to him and said that you need to consider getting a degree in finance. So he switched over to finance and he graduated after 5 years of being there. And Bradley, our youngest son, went to Southern University. He came back to Texas Southern, but he was an outstanding baseball player. He was supposed to play baseball for the San Diego Padres, but unfortunately he was murdered 2 months before he graduated from college, before he would have entered the pros. And that was a low spot, but by the grace of God, we made it through it. And we still put in one foot in the front of the other one, and we're going on, but only by the grace of God that we're able to do it. Thank you very much. So on the hay end of it, we have hay customers from all walks of life. And we are very, very grateful for it. I've had some of my competitors in hay to tell me, we would like to make a deal with you. We'd like to purchase 85, 90% of your hay. And we'll pay you half up front, pay you the other half at the end. And I said, you know, it is a good thought. We could use the cash flow that you're getting ready to write me a check for $250,000. I mean, any of us would like that if you're in the farming and ranching. But I said, if I accept a check from you, all of those cowboys and cowgirls that have been buying 20, 40, 50 round bales of hay, 50 square bales of hay from me all of these years, I'm going to be peeing on their head and telling them it's raining, and I just can't do that. And I said, I'm going to stay small like I am. And that's what we've done. Next slide. We can go to the next one. I call this slide, and for the young lady that was saying that she was starting out, we all start with what I would call a diamond in the rough. You go out to a farm or ranch and you think you want to get involved in this, but you're not really sure. But somewhere along the way, if God gives you a dream, you got to pursue it. And you got to give it everything that you have. But you got to be able to look beyond this brush. And you got to be able to see your house being there, to see a hay meadow being here, to see honeybees, to see real estate, to see a bread and breakfast, to see a hotel. You got to be able to see somewhat of an end before you even start. And if you can see that, then you truly will give it everything that you have. Next slide. On our pecans, we're small. We have about 450 native trees. We have about 175 improved pecan trees. We put mounds around them just like this to water them, to fertilize. We started spraying trees this year. All the way up until now, everything has been organic, but we decided to go ahead and change that. Now you can imagine, my wife and I both are growing in grace, and you see this water hose and we're dragging it to 175 trees. You know, when you spend all weekend during that and work all week, you know, you just burn out. But what really keeps you going, and I want everybody to really understand this, what keeps you going is the passion. It is the passion that you have for this. It's not the dollars, because if you go to these pecan short courses, and I've gone to Texas A&M, had the pecan short course, you know, if you decide that you want to invest in land and you don't need a cash flow immediately, pecans is a wonderful way to do it. But I guarantee you that you've lost money for the first 7 years. You're not going to break. You're not going to break even. You're not going to even break even in really 7 years. We've had pecan trees now for 26 years. We haven't always separated the cash flow on pecans, but I can tell you right now, according to the studies at Texas A&M, it's going to take between 7 to 11 years to break even in pecans. Yeah, because it's a tremendous investment. We had a lot of native trees. What we were trying to do here, we brought in a piece of equipment, got a young man from Hallettsville, and he came in and we grafted these trees. If you notice the limbs that are at the bottom, those were improved varieties. We had Harold Graff, that's about 10 miles south of Wharton, came in probably 18 years ago, and he grafted the trees, but in some areas of the tree, especially in the center, it did not take. Those were natives. So what we did is that we decided to go ahead and cut the natives out and then have someone to go ahead and graft those. So we'll end up with two different varieties in that same tree. And it was expensive to do it, but you know, if you love what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. You gotta love it in order to do it. And if you love it, you'll invest every dime you have in it. You gotta give it everything you have. Here are younger trees that we have, and once again, you can see that we have mounds around all of them to water them. We spray them and we fertilize them. So that's what we're doing with pecans. Here is a variety that we just love, Nocona. You can see that it's clean. We start spraying them this year, and so there's no disease on those pecans. But it's rather expensive to get that done. Now, we started this with a dream in 1995. And in 1995, I was going to church with a gentleman that owned 87 lots in Houston. I made a deal with him immediately to go ahead and purchase that. And we didn't go to a real estate, didn't go to a realtor. We went to the title. And I felt that I knew a little bit about real estate, that I could go in and draw up a contract and we would be able to move forward. Well, when I signed the agreement from the title company, I paid down like $7,000 or $8,000. I go to my banker and he told me, Mr. Abraham, that's a worthy investment, but we can't loan you the money. And I said, what's wrong with it? I said, I think it's a good deal. We're only asking for $144,000. And I said, the gentleman owned 87 lots. What we wanted to do was to build condominiums, duplexes, put houses on them, and we were going to set it up under Section 8. City of Houston would have leased out all of those properties. My wife and I would have received a check around the 3rd of every month. We would have never had to collect one rental check. That was my dream. Now I said, this is what we can do. This would be our retirement. But the banker came back and he said, Mr. Abraham, this is in a red line district. We cannot loan you money. We can't use this property for real estate. No collateral on this property. We cannot handle that. But we can loan you the money on your signature. So if you want it, you can go and get it. I went ahead and signed the contract. Back then, bankers were personable. Now everything is online. So we shook hands and I decided to go ahead and sign the contract, and I did. This gentleman that owned the property, he had 12 houses on it. The income at that time was about $5,000 a month. But he had 3 of his kids living in 3 of the 12 houses. He had never collected one penny in rent from any of his children. And he came back to me and he said that you're going to have problems collecting from my children. And I told him, I said, well, look, I said, I really appreciate you sharing this with me. I said, what we can do is I can let your son buy the property since he's grumbling. And I said, there is a form they have at the title company. We can reverse our decision. We reverse our decision. And I came to Wharton County and we started buying the piece of land that we're in, and that all happened in 1995. So that your county agricultural extension agent in every county can really be a blessing to you. That's your source of information, free information. You're not paying for that information. They will be able to help you freely. What they don't know, they have contact with Texas A&M, Prairie, U of H, all of the other fine institutions that we have in our area. So you're going to need to know the county agents very well. That's first and foremost. Next, you got to figure out the financial institutions, and things are changing now. You used to have personal relationship with bankers. And if you still have that, you got a jewel. But in most cases, that does not exist anymore. But don't forget about your credit unions, Capital Farm Credit, the USDA, and those institutions as well. The next thing you're going to need, in my opinion, is a very good CPA. You're going to need someone to steer you in the right direction on your taxes, because that becomes a part of your entity. You know, whether you're going to be paying the government taxes or whether you're going to have taxes coming to your bottom line. You see these farmers and ranchers in these riding around in these brand new dualies. Yeah, they're brand new and they're writing a check for it. But at the same time, a lot of those funds come from the way they have everything set up, and they're writing off all of this expense. So you got to think about it. The next thing you're going to need, and this came out earlier, is to have some legal advisor. You got to have them on your team. All of these have to be a part of your marketing plan. Next thing you're going to need is insurance. Harvey came through. We were not prepared for it. We ended up with, most people in my area is 37 homes, 31 flooded. We were blessed to be one of 7 that did not flood. But we had 4 feet of water in our barn. We had over 8,000 square bales, and we had 4 feet of water. But once that water hit that bellow, hey, it acts like a wick. It just went all the way up to the top. We lost every bale. We lost over $300,000 in hay and never collected a penny from the USDA or from FEMA, Red Cross, not one penny. So we suffered that loss on our own. Next slide. Dependable labor is always a problem. If you're going into farming and ranching, notice I said dependable. And you can find laborers, you can find day labor to work for a day, but it's hard to find dependable labor. Next slide. The next thing you're going to need is that you got to have what you don't know. You got to have a seasonal or experienced mechanic to help you along the way. You know, when God passed out gifts, he gave some 1, some 3, and some 5. If you've got 1 or 2 gifts that God has given you, mechanicing may not be one of your gifts. So you got to know someone, and it's good that you don't have to know everything. You just got to know the people like Braxton that would know. So you got to just be in the know to know who is in a position to help you, who have that expertise. He or she can help you along the way. Next. So the next thing you got to figure out is your equipment purchase. Do you go buy used equipment or do you buy brand new? Brand new equipment looks really, really good sitting in the barn. But at the end of the year, when you're doing your taxes, do you want a John Deere to make that big profit? Or do you want to put the profit on your bottom line? You know, which family you want to feed? You got to make that decision on your own. Next slide. I think also you got to be careful discussing your dream with your friends, with family members, co-workers, because think about it like this. God has given you the dream. Not your brother, not your sister, not your friend, not your next door neighbor. And sometimes, no matter how good of a plan you have in mind, no matter how good of a plan that you put in mind, it'll go south on. Next slide. This is probably one of the most important slides that I can show you as a group. And it's important because of agricultural exemption on this land that you want to buy. You got to be able to get those taxes lowered. Here is a case. In our case, we own land, but we lease a lot of land also. We have a 7.5 acre strip that we're paying $24 a year on in taxes. Without agricultural exemption, the taxes would be $1,900. That's a big difference. I know of a family that have roughly about 4.5 acres without agricultural exemption, and they're paying $1,400. Ladies and gentlemen, agricultural exemption has got to be a part of your marketing plan. It's got to be a part of what you do. This is a big tax saver. Pierce Ranch is 33,000 acres. They couldn't afford to pay the taxes on it if they did not have ag exemptions. So what about you and I with 10 and 12 acres, the last slide. So in ending, this is my last slide. My good friend, my co-worker, T.B. Smith, graduated from Prairie. He and I worked together at the plant, and during his retirement, he shifted gears. Instead of going in the chemical business like I did, he decided to go into photography. So basically, this is the end of my presentation, but we've had ups and downs in farming and ranching. But anybody in business is going to experience the same thing, but we're still in it because of the passion that we have for working with the land. And so my wife and I have decided that we're going to do it until God calls us home. And it's not about money for us. Thank you.
A question for you online, and the question was, why did you discontinue organic farming for your country?
Good question. The question is why did we discontinue organic farming on our pecan trees? The reason that we stopped because we wanted to go more into production. We wanted to have a crop that we would be able to spray herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides on to keep them free of insects and disease. And we felt that we could really increase the production where we wouldn't be able to get the production out of those trees if we continued to go organically. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question about that. I have about 40 to 50 pecan trees, well,
Natives or?
native.
Okay.
And I'm probably best get information about harvesting and so forth.
County agent. Yes.
So her question was, where you best get information about harvesting, just different aspects of farming, pecan farming, anything. At the extension office, that's what we deal with. We a lot of times don't know the answer to everything, but we can definitely point you in the right direction. Any more questions?
One thing about the agriculture is intention now is for 5 years. If you don't have an ag, you want to get it in 5 years now?
Yes.
Okay.
If you lose the agricultural exemption for whatever the reason, if you lose it, if you lose agricultural exemption on his or her land, once you apply, it takes you 5 years before you can be reinstated.
And where do you get that exemption from? Who gives you?
You get it from the Central Appraisal District, which is in every county. Central Appraisal District.
One more question.
So I've been looking at property, I've been seeing property that is already ag exempt, that can be transferred, and then it says it's ag exempt available. So that means you have to go through the 5-year process, correct?
Yes.
So is there a complicated process in transferring an ag exemption if I buy a property, it's already got exemptions, that just transfer over and I just have to put my name on it in front of the homestead?
Let me just take a minute to explain that. If you're buying a property that has agricultural exemption on it, it doesn't automatically transfer. What you have to do is go in and apply. If you buy 40 acres of land, that particular farmer, he or she has ag exemption. When you purchase that land, it doesn't automatically come to you, but there's a form at the Central Appraisal District office in Wharton County that you can fill out. And if ag was used, if they were running cattle, doing hay, raising soybeans, cotton, milo, whatever agricultural crop, then it makes it easier for it to roll over onto your property as well. So you will not be denied, but you need to go ahead and apply. If you're out of exemption for 2 years, then it makes it difficult for you to get it. You might have to apply, and it may have to take 5 years for you to get it back.
Question I've been having, we inherited the property. Is it fair for someone to come in on your, and shake it behind with production and charge you over 50% for what they do? I mean, I know they clean up, they shake, they take it to the market. This is what's happening, what's happening with my dad. So I was trying to figure out if this is a fair deal or not.
I can answer that. It is fair. It's a little, everything is really going up. On our pecans, we had a gentleman that was harvesting. We did it for, I don't know, maybe 15 years on 50-50 ratio. But about 3 years ago, prices started going up on his supplies, but it was going up on our end as well. And he went to a 60-40. And today, if he harvests our crop, then he takes 60% of the crop and we take 40%. And so you ask whether or not it's fair, but if you go to any store, everything is going up. So you can't do much better than that. They have the equipment, and you can, a little money is better than no money at all.
I'd just like to interject that I was affiliating that I had 9.87 acres and was not eligible for a agriculture exemption. But in one of the meetings similar to this, it was shared with me that if you have 5 acres, you can put bees on it and get an agricultural exemption.
Yes.
So if you don't have 10 to get the typical exemption, if you have 5, you can put bees on it.
Adding to your comment, I met a gentleman that came from Houston. We just came back from the Texas Pecan Growers Association conference. And this gentleman was at our table. He had 5.5 acres of land in Harris County that he had pecans on. He did have the ag exemption. But what was so impressive, I've never met a man so happy. And you could see it and feel it in his conversation. And he leaned over to me and he said, Mr. Abraham, the reason my place, we like it so well, he said that 5.5 acres has been appraised at $987,000. And he said the city of Houston bought 1/8 of 1 acre and they paid me $90,000. And I said, sir, if I own that 5.5 acres and they paid me $90,000 for 1/8 of an acre, I said, I'll have a smile on my face too. The bottom line is that when you own property, you got something.
Awesome. I'd like to apologize, we went a little bit over time, but I think it was all great stuff. So I hope we didn't take too much of your time. Online right now, you should be able to see a survey. We ask that you fill that out for us before you go. And also, please fill out the surveys here in person. This entire presentation, everybody's presentation has been recorded. If you'd like access to that, you could reach me at my email. That's bjmitchell@pvamu.edu. And I can get you those recordings if you wanted to rewatch them and take notes or send them to someone, that's totally fine. Just, again, my email is bjmitchell@pvamu.edu. We'll also, provide, if you have anybody, if you want anybody's contact info, we'll provide them. We'll also type that in the chat before we go. But other than that, everyone is free to go online after that survey is done. If you have any more questions, you can type in the chat, and I could also get you connected with who you need to speak with. So thank you again. Also ask that you please join us for our next session next week. It'll be same time, same day. It'll be the 12th from 9 to 11. We'll have Mr. Lloyd Hebert come speak on business development. And we'll also have another producer speak to give his testimony pretty much like Mr. Abraham did. So thanks again.